Hello and welcome to another Standard Games video. Today we're taking a look at a black-green Death Touch deck as voted on by my supporters on Patreon, and our curve topper doesn't even have Death Touch. Springleaf Avenger, a 5-mana 6/5 insect ninja, has ninjutsu for 4 mana, and when the Avenger deals combat damage to a player, we get to return a target permanent card from our graveyard to our hand. So the Avenger naturally has good synergy with Death Touch creatures, which are good ninjutsu enablers. The opponent is unlikely to want to block them, and if they do block and trade off, then now we have a good target in the graveyard to get back with her Avenger. Then we have another great Death Touch payoff card with Finn the Fangbearer, a 2-mana 1/3 legendary human warrior with Death Touch, saying whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters, and a player with 10 or more poison counters loses the game. It's a very powerful alternate win condition if we can get lots of cheap Death Touch creatures in play early. And then another payoff card are the 2 copies of Henrika, a 4-mana 1/3 legendary vampire with flying. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we get to choose one that hasn't been chosen between each player sacrifices a creature. We draw a card at the cost of 1 life, or we can transform Henrika into the Infernal Seer, a 3/4 with flying, Death Touch, and lifelink. And for 1 and double black, each creature we control with flying, Death Touch, and or lifelink gets +1/+0 until end of turn, so that can potentially pump our entire team. Then another great synergy with Springleaf Avenger are the 3 copies of Binding the Old Gods as a removal spell in the form of a saga, destroying target null-land permanent an opponent controls on the first chapter. Then we get to search up a forest on chapter 2. That's also the reason why we're playing 1 copy of Woodland Chasm as a swamp forest we can potentially search up, and eventually our entire team gains Death Touch, which can also play well with our Springleaf Avenger, which doesn't naturally have Death Touch. And then once the saga goes into our graveyard, we can get it back with our Avenger. So all of these cards can essentially be seen as 4-drops, which is why we can't play too many copies of them. Then we have a whole bunch of 1-mana Death Touch creatures with Tajuru Blightblade and Fang of Shigeki from Kamigawa. And then Eyetwitch is a 1-drop that doesn't have Death Touch, but it does have flying, so it makes for another good ninjutsu enabler, and it also provides good sacrifice fodder, because if Eyetwitch dies, we get to learn, grabbing one of our 7 sideboard lessons, including Environmental Sciences, Necrotic Fumes as removal, Conjuration can find a creature, Containment Breach deals with artifacts and enchantments, Pest Summoning makes a pair of pest tokens, Expanded Anatomy as a pump spell, and finally Mascot Exhibition can be a nice win condition, making a nice assortment of creature tokens. So we can sacrifice Eyetwitch either to Henrika or to the 4 copies of Fellstinger, a 3-mana 3/2 zombie scorpion with Death Touch and Exploit. So when the Fellstinger enters a battlefield, we can sacrifice a creature if we want, and if we do in this case, target player loses 2 life and draws 2 cards, so it can provide a nice bit of card advantage. Also usually don't mind sacrificing our various 1-mana Death Touch creatures, especially if we don't already have Finn in play. Then another powerful 2-drop is Tainted Adversary, a 2/3 with Death Touch, and when it enters a battlefield we can pay 2 and a black any number of times, and if we do, it enters with that many +1 counters, and we get to make twice that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed, so those are also good ninjutsu enablers. And then another ninja is Kapatak Wrecker, a 1/3 with Death Touch, although it doesn't always have Death Touch. It comes into play with a Death Touch counter on it, and we can remove that counter if it deals combat damage to a player to exile target artifact or enchantment the opponent controls, so it can be more removal there as well. And then 2 copies of Master's Rebuke as an instant, saying target creature we control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker we don't control. So if we pair this with a Death Touch creature, we can take out any opposing creature no matter how large it is, and it also makes more sense than Blizzard Brawl, since we don't actually want to fight, we just want to deal damage equal to its power, so we don't risk losing our own creature. And then our mana base includes our 1 copy of Woodland Chasm, 4 Deathcap Glade and Pathway, 7 forests, 4 swamps, and our 2 copies of Hive of the Eye Tyrant as our creature line of choice, and then the Channel Lands from Kamigawa. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play with a keepable hand. We'll have to draw 3rd land for Fellstinger, but then we can sacrifice Eyetwitch to the Exploit. And it's always nice to have Finn. Opponent red-black. So it could be an artifact sacrifice deck. Make that Grixis, so more likely to be control. Get to attack, and then Fellstinger sacrificing Eyetwitch 2nd main. Don't really need to get environmental sciences here. So what do I want to learn for with double Fellstinger? Could see pest summoning being okay. It's going to be a soul transfer exiling Finn, so no getting it back. Well, I get to attack and then good pest summoning first to set up Fellstinger in hand and set up for a longer grindy game. Massacre for 2 cleans up the board. So now I'm liking adversary, make a pair of zombies that we can also exploit. Opponent goes digging. So it looks like Grixis control. At some point we can ninjutsu, maybe get rid of the Meathog Massacre, but not really a priority right now. Okay, so maybe kick things off with Fellstinger, drawing cards. Okay, and then could also ninjutsu picking up my adversary so we can make more zombies in the future. Or I can ninjutsu with the zombie token to get rid of Massacre. And then I may or may not want to add an eye twitch to the board, since then we may be overextending into another board wipe. And then we'll ninjutsu. Opponent's going to Prismari command Fellstinger, so it makes me think they don't have another Meathog Massacre in hand. So I feel okay playing eye twitch. Hunt for specimens, gets to learn. Could see Mascot Exhibition, goes for the pest summoning instead. So lots of blockers on the ground. We are probably gonna attack and then maybe use Rebuke at instant speed. And play Fellstinger second main. Opponent goes for the triple block. Yeah, I'm okay using Rebuke. And we'll Rebuke with the Wrecker itself in case of 2 mana instant speed removal. And then I'll get my own Mascot Exhibition here. Do I want to play Blight Blade? I think so. Windfall goes digging. Professor Onyx not the best on this board. And the Valky for 2 mana is not going to see anything. Although a 7 mana Tybalt could be scary in the future. I think we have to play under the assumption that there's no sweeper in our future and keep committing to the board. So I'll attack with probably everyone. Could keep Fellstinger back since I don't want to trade for Valky necessarily. But so be it. And then play Mascot Exhibition instead of activating Hive. The way they block here could also be kind of a sign of whether or not they have a sweeper. If they did, they probably would have jumped Adversary. So we're all in here. It's gonna be Leer, letting them replay spells out of the graveyard. And they've got 6 mana to work with. So they can make a lot of pests. And probably animate Hive, send the team sideways. What can they play at instant speed? Prismari Command. And what do I exile? Probably not Prismari Command, so it's either Iteration, Windfall, or Soul Transfer. Hunt for Specimens actually could also be pretty effective at making blockers to gain life. So maybe that's the pick. Could also get their own Mascot Exhibition. Not loving my position. Opponent should be able to survive here, and then next turn they get to go off with Leer. Prismari Command dealing 2 to the adversary. At least they're not blocking Hive. Well, and I guess our opponent decided to die. At -1 life, the pests trigger after damage is dealt, so that's too late. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Blind Blade into adversary. And then Avenger should be able to ninjutsu at some point. Facing blue-white, so control deck. Having our creature land is nice. Opponent on Esper. So we'll attack. Next turn we could double spell once again. Might see a Vanishing Verse end of turn. We don't. Don't think Master's Rebuke is going to do much. So is there a sweeper we want to play around? Let's play Adversary first to play around Disruption. No, I don't think we play around anything here. Just add more to the board. And it's going to be a March exiling Adversary, fair enough. So nothing to get back with Avenger at the moment. But we can still ninjutsu just so we can deal some extra damage. Yeah, I mean, that's reasonable. Opponent probably foretold a Doomscar. But I still have Hive to keep up the pressure. And I can pick up Adversary so we can play it at 5 mana in case of a sweeper. So I think that's a fair compromise. They didn't seem to have Vanishing Verse earlier. So now if they wipe the board, I can play Adversary, make a pair of zombies. There's the Doomscar. Stick to the plan. So we have 7 power on the board, plus Hive we can activate. And hopefully we'll dodge more sweepers here. So I could animate Hive, although I don't necessarily want to expose it to instant speed removal. So I think we'll attack with a team, maybe after playing Fangbearer. Could also ninjutsu the adversary again to pick it back up, but then we miss out on a bit of damage. So I guess we'll play Finn, see if there's a response attack, and then ninjutsu accordingly. Ideally, they wait until we get a chance to ninjutsu as opposed to using removal on adversary now. Alright, they did have a Vanishing Verse. Don't think I need to ninjutsu the Wrecker. Opponent falls to 4. And I think I'm fine playing Wrecker here, just to add 1 power. And then hopefully we can cross the finish line with our creature land. Farewell exiles everything, so we can put them to 1. So now it might be a bit of a waiting game to see if we can apply pressure and not expose Hive to removal. So, could go for it. They could easily have another March, or maybe the Black March to gain some life back. The alternative would be using Abandoned Mire. Did the opponent have a great chance to draw cards yet? Because if they didn't, then I don't want to give them the opportunity to draw cards, and I would rather make them use removal if they have it. But I don't think they had a great opportunity to spend mana drawing cards yet. So I think I go for Hive. Although if this doesn't work out, it's going to be pretty tough to come back. If I channel, we would have to hit a creature in the top 3, which we're pretty likely to. So maybe that's still worth it. Alright. Right, found Fellstinger and Fang, and Fellstinger can deal 2 damage to the opponent directly, so I'll grab that. And yeah, there's a Deluge sadly, so opponent does get to dig pretty deep to find some answers. So possible that going for Hive would have worked out. Another Rebuke is not ideal. So if I play Fellstinger, our opponent can kill it in response to the exploit trigger. So now I might want to attack with Hive instead. They could have a Wandering Emperor in hand, which exiles tapped creatures, so that's also a reason to go for Fellstinger instead of Hive. Alright, and our opponent explodes. The Fellstinger was going to deal 2 damage to them to close out the game. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a fine opening hand. Double Adversary. And then can maybe pick one up with Avenger to eventually play for 5 mana. Up against Mono White aggro. So we should be able to hold off the initial assault at least. Can play Finn and attack if I want. Apply a bit of pressure. Now of course our opponent could kill Finn with a 3 mana creature and then attack and train. But training doesn't really matter when all our creatures have Death Touch. Going to be a Brutal Cathar as expected, but we've got Binding to get back Finn. Not necessarily a race we're going to win. But staying back also doesn't seem like the best plan. Alright, Master's Rebuke is more removal. So yeah, let's rebuke Brutal Cathar, get Finn back, play Adversary as an extra blocker, and then we shouldn't be at risk of dying on the way back. And now if 2 Death Touch creatures connect, we might be able to deal lethal. Can maybe pick up Adversary with Avenger, so we can make a bunch of zombies as well. Or we can pick up our Binding again. Adlin gonna make 1/1 tokens. So they could attack with both and force us to trade. Although that would leave them in a pretty precarious position if we have another removal spell. So our opponent passes. And yeah, I could attack with everyone. And then they might let 1 creature through. If they trade for everyone, I'm probably okay with it. They could just trade for Finn, but then Avenger can also get it back. So they hang on to Adlin. So if I were to Avenger, I don't deal any poison damage. But I think it's still worth it here. And then I can get back Finn, play Finn, wait on Adversary to make zombies. Or I can get Binding and just play a Blight Blade, although then they get to make a token for free. More likely that we win with regular damage at this point. But yeah, our opponent concedes, awesome. So Finn was able to kind of turn the game around, allowing us to apply some pressure ourselves, and then the opponent was forced in a defensive position where we were able to take over with Avenger. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. This is a mulligan. This we can try and keep. So turn 2, either Adversary or Finn. Make that Eye Twitch now. Up against mono green, it looks like. Take 1. So don't have to play a 2-drop, could go for Blight Blade for instance. Which is certainly reasonable, although Adversary can maybe block like a Sentinel even after it gets a counter, and forces the Wolf to get a counter to attack. And I'll keep Eye Twitch back as well. Tracker's a good one. So can double creature. Could keep a Master's Rebuke in case of a Blizzard Brawl, which is also reasonable here. And then no attacks because of Sentinel having reach. And then Binding is most likely to go after Ranger class, which can otherwise provide too much card advantage. Ren and 7 is not what I wanted to see. Planeswalker makes a large token. Well, I guess we take out a creature here. And then we can pressure Ren and 7. Can also destroy it with Binding now. Think I'm okay just attacking with everyone. And then Binding goes after Ranger class. Still an argument for playing Finn and waiting on Binding until they level up Ranger class and waste a bunch of mana on it. And yeah, there's a backup Ranger class. So our opponent's got the card advantage in their favor here with Pack Leader, Ranger class, and a Clue token still uncracked. We already took a mulligan, so it's gonna be an uphill battle. So High Twitch stays back so we can maybe learn. Do I play Adversary for 2 mana? Probably not. I guess if I play Finn, there's a small chance their opponent feels pressured into trading off some of their creatures. And then I might end up playing Adversary on defense. Alright, opponent takes the poison. Next turn Binding will give Eye Twitch Death Touch as well, so that could be relevant. They send in the troops, pumping the wolf, drawing with Pack Leader. So there is quite a bit of damage coming through here. So yeah, definitely cannot afford to take it all. They can pump this up to 5. So potentially taking 15, meaning I have to block at least Briarbridge Tracker. Is there any shot of us killing the opponent on the way back? Doesn't seem likely with the Lair of the Hydra and Sentinel on defense still. But yeah, I guess we can put a stop on upkeep, activate Hive in response to Binding. And then I would have 5 Death Touch creatures. But now our opponent has 3 blockers. So if I animate Hive, opponent can go block, block, block. 2 Death Touch creatures go through, so it's actually a lot closer than I would have thought. If they didn't have Sentinel, we might have been able to get there. But now, yeah, I don't really see us winning anymore. I can try and stay back to play defense, but then we're just going to get overwhelmed by card advantage. So I think we just hope our opponent doesn't notice the Death Touch. And exile doesn't matter. So if they don't animate Lair, they could be dead. Alright, opponent notices. So they've got 3 blockers lined up. And they're gonna take 8 poison total. So yeah, despite kind of being behind from the start of the game, we almost managed to get there thanks to the 3rd chapter of Binding, with a secret mode of giving Eye Twitch and Hive Death Touch. And doesn't matter what we learn for here. GG. Blizzard Brawl. And that'll do it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. Our hand is not particularly exciting. If we draw Finn or like a False Stinger, then things could maybe look up. And I guess there's also Henrika as another reasonable draw. As is, we're not really doing much. I guess we'll give it a shot. We have enough outs here. And probably kick things off with a Death Touch creature in case we draw Finn. And then next turn I can Eye Twitch plus Blind Blade to be mana efficient. Silver Raven. So some sort of ninja deck perhaps. Alright, Wrecker could be fun. Well, ninjutsu. Although going Blind Blade Eye Twitch is also actually pretty reasonable, since Eye Twitch just trades for Raven and can prevent ninjutsu. And then we can use the Wrecker later. Blue-white. So maybe more of an artifacts slash vehicles deck. Okay. So still won't be able to take out Automaton because of wards, but Rebuke can maybe deal with it later. And then for now, attack with probably everyone. Could keep Eye Twitch back. Right, opponent does go for the trade, so now I'm no longer incentivized to ninjutsu the Wrecker, but I can just play it for 2 mana. Portable Hole exiles the Wrecker. Can maybe get it back with Binding. So with a lands, I can Rebuke the Automaton, or we can draw another Wrecker, that works. Opponent goes for the trade. And then we still have Rebuke for when we draw our next land to take out Automaton. Still need one of our heavy hitters here, since we don't have a ton of pressure in play. March exiles our Wrecker, so now Rebuke is no longer online. Opponent passes, adversary, fine draw. Opponent does have a couple creature lanes we'll have to watch out for. Disruptor taps, so Automaton can attack for 5 damage. Alright, so now we can Rebuke the Automaton. Do I want to do anything else? I think Eye Twitch stays back. So I could attack with Adversary. If they want to double block, so be it. And then Wrecker can also attack. Although I could leave it back for Mechanic. So our opponent's probably gonna double block Adversary if I attack with it. So at that point I could attack with everyone. And then they just take it. I kill Automaton. Potentially taking 6 on the way back. Nah, let's leave... let's say the Wrecker on defense. Opponent's just gonna take it. Okay, I'll pass. Can Rebuke at instant speed. Don't expect any ways for the opponent to really mess up our adversary too much. If we had more mana, I could use Rebuke on the creature land and keep Binding to answer Automaton, but that's not really the case here. Okay, so now I can Finn attack with Adversary. I suppose Wrecker can also attack. Leave Eye Twitch to block Disruptor. So we're gonna see Cave attack. Not sure if anything else gets in the red zone, but I'm happy to learn with Eye Twitch. And then what do we get? Conjuration is tempting, as it not only gains life, but also can find another Death Touch creature. Could go for Containment Breach, killing Mechanic, making a 1/1 Pest. Although we still might end up dying to Cave in 2 turns. So we'll go with Conjuration. Fang the draw, not bad. So probably no harm in attacking first, leaving a Wrecker on defense. And then go Conjuration plus Fang. Finding a whole bunch of goodies. Might just grab another Fang. Something cheap we can maybe play alongside Binding, since the game's going to be decided in the next couple turns. Avenger, I guess, is also pretty good with our opponent at 6, so I guess we'll grab Avenger instead now. Don't have to win with Poison, but it's definitely fun to do so. Binding killing Mechanic next turn could clear a path for Poison damage. Just another lane for the opponents, and they concede. Yeah, we had them dead to both poison and regular damage. The perfect win. Alright, so we get to see our black-green Death Touch deck in action. And yeah, Finn, certainly a nice alternate win condition that forces the opponent into awkward play patterns that they may not be used to. And then I think Avenger makes for a perfect curve topper in this deck, not only as a way to maybe close with regular damage, but also just as a nice late game play, giving us a bit of recursion so we don't run out of cards. So yeah, that'll do it for today's gameplay. Wanna thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for being part of the channel, and you can become a patron yourself today and decide the topic of future videos over at patreon.com/legendvd.